Hey everyone, Sebastian here, back again with another question from Bluebook Test 1, Reading and Writing Module 1. This time, question 5. Okay, so this is a comparative question. You can see that right off the bat because there's two texts, right? Now, let's get into it. So I'll read the text and then I'm going to do the question, right? So I can actually look at the question first, and it just says, based on the text, how would Falcarelli and Panetta most likely respond to fans' findings? Okay, so normally, right, there's some sort of way that they're comparing each other. Sometimes they're against each other, sometimes they're with each other. But let's see. When companies in the same industry propose merging with one another, they often claim that the merger will benefit consumers by increasing efficiency and therefore lowering prices. Economist Yin Fang investigated this notion in the context of the United States newspaper market. She modeled a hypothetical merger of Minneapolis area newspapers and found that subscription prices would rise following a merger. Okay. And then text 2. Economist Dario Falcarelli and Fabio Panetta have argued that research on the effects of mergers on prices have focused excessively on short-term effects, which tend to be adverse for consumers. Using the case of consumer banking in Italy, they showed that over long term, several years in their study, the efficiency gains realized by merged companies do result in economic benefits for consumers. Okay, so their point, right, is that merging helps consumers. And her point found that she modeled a hypothetical merger and found that subscription prices would rise following a merger, which seems like it would hurt consumers. So they're opposed to each other in some way, right? So based on the text, how would Falcarelli and Panetta likely respond to fans' findings? A, they would argue that over the long term, the expenses incurred by the merged newspaper company will also increase. B, they would recommend that fans compare the near-term effects of a merger on the subscription prices in the Minneapolis area with the effect of a merger in another newspaper market. C, they would encourage fans to investigate whether the projected effect on subscription prices persists over an extended period. And D, they would claim that mergers have a different effect on consumer prices in the newspaper industry than in most other industries. Okay, so what we have here, right, is what's their purpose here. They're saying that over several years, over the long term, efficiency gains are. So they're about time, right? So I would say D doesn't work because they're not talking specifically about banking or saying anything against newspapers. Doesn't work. And then I would also say, right, they would recommend that fan compare the near term in Minneapolis to other newspaper markets. They're not really focused on geography. So I'd eliminate B. So then we're between A and C. They would argue that over the long term, the expenses incurred by the merged newspaper company will also increase. And C, they would encourage a fan to investigate whether the projected effect on subscription prices persists over an extended period of time. Okay. So they're both about time, so I feel like they're both tempting. But here what they're focused on is expenses in the company, right? When in this, right, they're saying that the efficiency gains over the long term help them lower the prices and result in economic benefit. So there's efficiency gains that wouldn't be higher expenses probably, right? So it wouldn't, and also the fact that there's more expenses for the newspaper company, that doesn't help the consumer necessarily. Maybe that helps other competitors, and in some way that could help the consumer, right? We don't want a monopoly going on here, but it doesn't help the consumer directly. Whereas C says they would encourage fan to investigate, so that's a little weaker, saying they would encourage instead of saying they would argue, and whether the projected effect on subscription prices persists over an extended period. So the extended period is the long term, and they're sort of saying maybe in the long term the prices will drop and that'll help this consumer. So if I had to go with anything, I would go with C. Definitely not D, definitely not B, and honestly not A. We know it's C, but A would be the second best choice, right? So again, I'm comparing the questions, and you want to think about not only what their argument is or what they're basing their argument on. And again, focus on wording, right? Argue and encourage, similar things. Encourage, I think, is softer, which maybe helps sometimes. And then, again, they're focused on efficiency gains, so not on expenses, and they're focused on helping the consumer. So again, not on expenses. So I hope this question made sense to you all, and I hope you are all enjoying your day and that in the long term, you're becoming more efficient as well. Talk to you soon.